Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how did you know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast Sunday show. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Goober. Hey,
Jennifer,
Dan.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Today.
Huh?
Beautiful Sunday today. This is
Oh,
good.
it's gorgeous here today. So got the house open, did some cleaning this morning. So
The cold is finally settling in on New England. I can feel it. Yep. We had a long warm spell, but it is good. It's a perfect day.
I have no clue what that is. Like my cold's different from y'all's cold, but it's a beautiful day. So happy to be here.
You will soon.
Well, before we get started into our show, we're going to be doing part 2 of the Root and Head Center and the pressures that is pressuring the awakening that's currently happening on our planet. If you are new to the show, or if you've followed us before, watched before, please make sure you like, subscribe, drop us a comment. We're going to be checking the comments as we go through the show. We're going to make a conscious effort to pause and answer any questions that you guys have, but we would love to hear that feedback if it resonates with you. If you haven't already and you don't know what human design is, or you have come across it and you want to learn more, make sure that you book a session with Dan. He's phenomenal with really breaking down who you are and what your chart is. Even if you've already had a reading too, he does things a little bit differently. So reach out to us. I will pop you can find all the links down below. You can also find it in the descriptions if you have any questions. And for those of you who have come across human design and you're in the middle of your deconditioning process and you really need, you're looking for someone to support you, we have a new monthly program called The Vortex, and that is to meet wherever you are at, whatever level you are at when it comes to human design. It is a group container that we have that we're all supporting each other going through the deconditioning process. Doesn't just deal with human design. Human design is what really starts everything, but we have a lot of different tools, healing techniques, all sorts of things to help you through this journey.
This is yep. And all of the stuff that people go through as they're deconditioning, it's going to be so helpful for them to be able to call it in, get yourself read. It's the most amazing process. And if you listen to the beginning of our show, those are real people and their real reactions to what happens after I first read for them. It's pretty universal all the way through. That wasn't a mistake, and those aren't just a few captured moments. Every reading has this in it. So
absolutely.
And Jennifer, did you get the wheel I sent you in the email? I know you already have a wheel, but
I did not get it in the email. I used the wheel that we used last time.
Perfect. Can we pull up the wheel first as we dive into today? Because if you recall, we started with we did the first 6 gates of the root, and now we're about to do the left side of the root center. And what I wanted to point out to people, this interesting little sub thread, is it also has everything to do with what our New Year's resolution is going to look like. We started, yes, the Chinese New Year starts on gate 41, sort of the upper left hand side of the wheel. it may be difficult to see, but there.
Right here.
Yep. Gate 41. This is the starting codon inside of our genetic code. This is the start codon. It also happens to be, it happened to line up as the I Ching hexagrams lined up. It happened to line up with the Chinese New Year. And don't forget, this wheel was lined up according to how our genetic base pair is arranged. That's the foundation of how it's set up. A few other things added in, and then this wheel can only lay out one way. And when it laid out, as it turned out in the calendar, in the year, in the days of a year, gate 41 is the beginning of the Chinese New Year. The Chinese I Ching, the Chinese New Year. What are the chances? So
interesting.
There's, this was really meant to come through. The forces wanted us to have this. So, but the thing that's also so important is one of these shows, we're going to end up showing very closely how we can read around the wheel and get the complete genetic picture of how we're being sewn up year after year after year, how our genome is constantly going around the wheel and then repeating, around the wheel and then repeat. And so since we're on the left side of the root center, the last three gates of the root center, we're going to start with gate number 58. And we're going to go right up. So notice on the wheel, if you just back up a few, 58 is right there. And then the next gate in line that we'll read is 38. That's the next gate up on the root center. And then the next gate up on the root center is 54. They go right in order on the wheel. This is something that you'll see as we leave one gate and go into the other. It makes sense also, transitionally speaking, as it going from one hexagram to the next as we make our revolution around the sun each year. This is it's a progression that is constant. Every year it goes this way. So I just thought that was interesting. It's the only real reason to bring this wheel up and to show that it's in the quarter of mutation. So what happens at this time of year is incredibly mutative. It changes things. It's the death of the old and the bringing of the new. Look at the new quarter and the blue, light blue. It's about initiation. So we go from spirit back into mind and measuring and figuring and then into civilization and then into duality and then back to mutation again. Round and round she goes.
That's interesting because when you get into like when we were doing the virtual retreat and I was talking about the medicine wheel, this can, is pretty much the cycle of life too.
Yep.
And during this time,
I love
this time of winter is it's marked as the death or the transition, but you need that to mutate.
You do absolutely. And so I have the book with me as well, so I can actually read the titles and the first line of each hexagram as we go through them. First lines are always the foundation. The first two lines make the foundation binary. And if we had time, which I'm sure we won't, I could also read the fifth line, what everyone wants the hexagram to be. We all have a want on the surface, and we think that's our want. It's baked into us. It's our want. Don't get me wrong. It's ours. But the thing is, we're rather choiceless in that want until we start seeing it. And then as we see it, we actually become a little with some more choice in it all. Still choiceless, but shall we say helpless to it all. But so this is sort of a precursor to when we finally take a dance around the wheel. It's an amazing story when we go around the wheel. It's just an amazing story. What to say, and when we basically start at gate 41 to do so, to show
I think we did a small video one time on the wheel specifically.
Yep. The workings of it, absolutely. How we start at the first line and we inch our way up as we go around the sun to the sixth line, and that sixth line always transitions into the very next one. And that's what we're going to see today, 58, when we're moving around the sun and we go from line 1. And over the course of 6 days, we go through 2, 3, 4, 5. When we get to line 6 is always transitioning into line 1 of the next hexagram. It's the story of our evolutionary process. And it's a slow process, but it's a good one. So What you looking at, Jen? Yeah, those are our signs.
Yeah, I was just looking at it. I like how she did her wheel. It's very in depth.
Yeah, it is. And now since we're looking at the signs on all of this, we'll be able to throw certain flavors in. Starting at gate 58, we're in Capricorn. And 38, we're in Capricorn. And 54, we're in Capricorn. And then we're going to move to 61. So all of these are in Capricorn. This time of year and this pressure to pressure awareness is heavily focused on the pressure centers, pressuring the awareness that moves our spirit into the awakening that we keep talking about. Humanity is waking up. It's this, how do we explain it? I mean, it's just this incredible process, and nobody doesn't see it. Strike that. I promise you, some people don't see it, but mostly people see it. That's my feeling.
Most people will see it. It's the awareness, or the word's escaping me, but realizing that there is a connection. Acknowledging it.
Absolutely. So what is this awakening that we keep going through? It's being pressured. It is being pressured. And that pressure is heavily reliant on being shared. That pressure is heavily reliant on being shared and then being mutative, shared and then mutative. So what is this awakening? We're waking up to our heightened consciousness, this awareness that we are all supposed to get along and commune and allow for the unique liberation of the unique individual.
Yeah.
The original mission statement, Jen, we started out with.
That's still our mission statement. We are here to help liberate the individual.
Yes.
Because if we don't get liberated, the awakening that's happening on the planet, it all starts with us individually. And the more that we do awaken and we start to liberate ourselves, we can help others liberate around us.
It's absolutely true. So here are the things. So we know all these gates, the first 4 gates we're going to read, they're all in Capricorn. So I don't know much about Capricorn. I'm right on the cusp. Apparently I'm a little bit of both, but I'm Sagittarius by birth time. But you guys can school me on what is Capricorn.
What a Capricorn? Hold on one second. Tressa just sent me a message. She needs the link.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
No, she said, never mind, got it. It was in the chat. So Capricorn, Capricorn is it likes structure. It is an earth sign. It is the sea goat, actually. So it is ruled by Saturn. It is also Capricorns, they are workaholics. They're the ones that are really into the structures. They are entrepreneurs. A lot of Capricorns are entrepreneurs. They are very good with money too sometimes.
Oh, that's so funny. That is so funny. I can't wait to read some. Yeah, good. And any comments is, if anyone's viewing whatsoever, if a comment comes in, what others say about Capricorn? Let's get a
Nicole says public, organization, institutions. Yes, it is all of that. Let's see. I have some other stuff Capricorns can be very stubborn. Since I think a lot of earth signs, they can tend to be very stubborn, especially Taurus with that. But they are very structured. They have a lot to do with the career. Institutions.
So, this is good. Hi, Nicole, Nikki, love you. So let's pull up the other. Let's pull up the other graphic now that we see we're focused in this little hunk of the wheel, and we're moving gate to gate to gate. So I'll read the first line, and if I have time, I'll read the 6th line to see what's transitioning.
Before we do that, I do want to pop on Savannah and Tressa real quick. Okay. Hey, Savannah.
Hi.
Hey, Tressa.
The whole gang is here. Thank God.
Sorry I'm late.
No, it's okay. We had a stopping point, so I figured it would be great to pop y'all on and welcome.
Welcome aboard, guys. So everybody, Tressa and Savannah, as if you don't know them already. So here we are where we left off last week. We
Yes.
left off at the root center, and we're going to go. I don't know. Did you guys hear the beginning of any of this, Tress, or are you just dialed in now?
I just finished with a session, so I'm just hopping on.
Perfect. So we left off. So I brought up the wheel. The wheel was up just as you were popping on. And the point was that we're moving in succession around the wheel. We're going to go 58, 38, 54 on the root, and then we'll go up to 61 on the head center.
And guys, before we dive into this too, if y'all are looking, if you would like to see the slides and you can't quite see them in your screen, check the description because I did put the PDF in there for you guys to download too. And if you are re-listening to the podcast, you should be able to find all the slides in the description as well.
God, Jennifer, I don't know what we would do without you, Jesus. Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Sorry for the barking.
That's all good. So 58, 38, 54, 61, they all go right in order on the wheel, one after the other after the other. So it'll be real interesting to see the foundation and then the succession through line 6 into transitioning into the next one. They all are squarely in Capricorn, and they're all in the quarter of mutation in the wheel, moving towards, the new beginning in gate 13, where it all begins again. So 58. Let's just read this bad boy. The joyous, the gate of vitality. Under the heading, stimulation is the key to joy. And the foundation of this is love is life. Love is life. And it's so 58 is in a collective circuitry, collective logical understanding circuitry. So it wants to share its joy and vitality for identifying the logical patterns that then bring themselves life. It's an amazing process. It comes out of the root center, so that means it's adrenalized. It's the pressure to pressure the awareness to challenge the whole logic system over and over again. And in that challenge, gate 58 gives gate 18 in this channel of challenge, this channel of judgment, the judgment of what needs to be challenged, the judgment for correction, and the challenge of authority. So 58 is the joy of challenging authority. Someone with 58 line 1, and you got a 58 line 1 child, they're going to love to challenge you, mom and dad. And you're going to have to help foster that in a creative way for them. And it says, as the line, the very key to stimulation of the world is the basis of an aesthetic appreciation of its beauty and wonder. It's this energy which fuels the love of the patterns of life. And remember, patterns are logical. We need to understand them. So here we are with the primary energy for the logical process and the stream of judgment that goes from 58 all the way up to 16. And together we have most of these gates in our body graph between the 4 of us. So Tressa, you have the whole channel of 48, 16.
And I have 58. I'm just missing 18.
You got 58 in an open root center.
And an open root, hanging
all
58.
4 of us are open root centers. So we know what it's like to feel all that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Pressure. I'm under pressure. I got to move. Right, Savannah? Oh, my God, I'm not getting enough done. Oh, I have to move. I have to do the thing. And how have we all been doing as it relates to the recognition that it's not our pressure? Tressa, you meditate every day religiously. Is that true? Same time, sort of?
Yes. Yes. And with that being said, I do have an open head in ajna. So for everybody out there listening, I used to think that meditation was for everybody. If you have a defined head in ajna, don't try to quiet your mind. Do guided visualizations. It's going to serve you a lot better.
Yep.
But yeah,
I've been able to get. It took me a long time to get to the point of the not doing guided meditations, but I am able to achieve it with the defined head. It's not easy.
Yeah.
A percentage are I've noticed a small percentage, 10%, 12% of the people with defined heads can actually make their way, get through to meditation. I've never meditated successfully, or so rarely. It's not something I can count on.
It would take a lot of effort and consistent dedication towards getting to that. A lot more than somebody with an open head. I think it's it's more challenging. So good job. That's very impressive.
Yeah, no, but that's what we're going to do when we get to the head. We got 2 open, 2 defined. We're going to be playing devil's advocate for each other type thing. So anyways, 58 is this joy for the stimulation of what it's like to be stimulated to find the right pattern and then share that with the other. It is a genetic requirement to share new patterns or patterns that can be laid down and identified and repeated. You were going to say something, Jennifer?
Yeah, Tressa was talking about her experience with Gate 58, and I'd like to hear what. I cut her off, and I didn't mean to.
Oh, no, that's okay. Gate 58, the joy of life. These can be people who always have smiles on their face, like they just have so much joy of life. But I did kind of want to come in and chime in and say that everything in design is a this or a that. So some people with this joy of life are also some of the most cynical, bitter people out there because they know how great life can be. And when they're not experiencing the joy of life, it really turns them into their not self, cynical type of person out there. So the joy, yeah.
You use the right keynote because bitterness, it would describe a projected channel. This is a this stream of awareness is a projected are all projected channels. So they need to be recognized. So there you are with the joy and the vitality, and then you see what's there in life, and then suddenly the pattern doesn't emerge, and everyone around you is a doofus, and they don't follow the plan, right? It's like, guys, if we do this way, the whole house runs better and everyone's happier. Nope.
Yeah.
And your fuel for correction can turn into a fuel for like, what the hell?
Right? Yeah, isn't the 5818? It's called the channel of judgment, and so they are they want things to be perfect, and they want to correct things so that it can bring everyone joy, right? So sometimes 58, it's like sometimes they can come across maybe like a low expression would be kind of just critical, like kind of like what Tressa was talking about. Sometimes the cynical bitterness, but
let me read it to you. The moon through its phases is that the moon that will limit joy to only an intermittent and cyclical experience. The cyclical energy, which internally fuels the love of life. So then you're pissed off in the meantime when it's not there. You don't feel good when it's not there. It's the cynic.
Yeah.
It's like it becomes cynical.
Yeah. Gate 18, Savannah, that's a very critical gate. Gate 18, all about correction. So when you have the whole channel, 58, 18, and Danny, please correct me if I'm wrong. 58, the whole channel, yeah, you're going to be a little bit more critical. But from my experience, people with a hanging gate 18 in a defined spleen are always trying to, well, not always, but they're not selfish, criticizing, they're trying to correct. Nothing's ever good enough for them. Nothing is ever perfect enough for them. And
it would be a nagging feeling inside of them that they don't want to feel that way. So they would have, so think about it, we go through this life process, we get wiser as we get older, so they would be flip-flopping. I don't want to be critical, and then they let it go. And then they can only let it go so long, and then they fall back into the thing, and so back and forth. I could see that.
Isn't it like gate 18? They're more kind of like blunt, critical, but the gate 58 is more kind of like nice about it. They aren't as blunt, but they are picking up patterns of what needs corrected to be. That's kind of different, isn't it? Gate 58 is nicer than gate 18, and when it comes to being critical or pointing out patterns that are wrong or not working, right?
Well, it'll get bitter if it doesn't have 58 because it doesn't have the sustained adrenalized fuel to carry out the sharing of their corrective process. So that's why we always look at the super keynotes above it all. And if you notice, Jennifer flipped back to the graph where we showed, go back to that. So just to remind everybody, pressure center at the bottom, pressure center at the top, and there's the 3 awareness centers in the dark blue. So all the pressure is pointing directly at the awareness centers with one exception, pointing at the sacral off the top of the root. Everywhere else, there's 12 gates of pressure, and only 9 of the 12, 3/4 of them, a super majority, point and pressure and move our awareness along. So we're under pressure to get smarter, guys. In case you haven't noticed it on the planet, we're doing that all the time. We gotta get better. We gotta get better. We gotta wake up. We gotta stop the collective from crushing our individual spirit. That's a common theme out there at this moment, making the individual obey collective rules. No can do will die. It can't happen. I would like to get an oximeter and a blood pressure meter and a few other vital signs for everybody who's under the social credit score system in China and see truly what is their biorhythm really like. En masse, across a million people, and then take another million people from an African country where it's totally different culture, one from maybe the bush in Australia, totally different, and then a couple from Western civilizations, and really match those up. I think we'll find amazing things. The more the individual's controlled, the more messed up they are.
That would be very interesting to see the data on that on paper.
Mm-hmm. So before we move on to, unless anyone else has something else to say about 58, the joy and the vitality to start a process that's going to correct things and put things in an order. So,
all I was going to say was that when we started off, you were asking me about the sign of Capricorn and its characteristics. You just read all of it. So now I'm like, I want to go and look at all the gates according to the astrology, because you really just described a good, that is the characteristics of Capricorn.
The challenging part and yeah, absolutely. So as we're transitioning through Capricorn and Jen, an incredible contemplation, and anybody who's learning more about astrology, as I forgot, both Savannah and you, Tressa, were looking into more about astrology. So all the lines of the gates will say something about that sign. That sign is defined in the gates and the lines that are in the I Ching hexagrams to flesh it out in a way that the 2,000 years ago astrology guys just wouldn't have had access to fully. They would have intuitively had some stuff, but they couldn't have concretized it in a wheel in a mechanical motion. They just wouldn't have had the measuring tools.
Because each gate is in the sun for 6 days throughout the year. But you can tell a lot about somebody by knowing what gate is in their sun. And so, like I know Sagittarius, right? Like gate, because I am a Sagittarius, and I'm born on December 14th. And so that's gate 11, right? That's like the philosopher and loves talking ideas and wisdom. So like you can see why Sagittarius, they have that as a characteristic, because it matches up with a lot of the qualities of gate 11 that are in the sun. And so it's kind of fun to find out each gate and when it's in the sun of that year. And it you can tell a lot about somebody by knowing what gate is in their sun. So just like gate 58, is Capricorn. So that lets you know they're going to be more logical and more practical and very, and that matches up with gate 58. So, because it's logical circuitry, logical collective circuitry. So,
and Savannah, on the next gate in line after gate 11 is gate 10 on the wheel, as I recall, and gate 10 is the love of self.
Yes, self-empowerment, right, and empowering others to love and empower themselves. I think that's totally you, Dan.
That sounds very Sagittarius-y. So now we're going to move on to, so where's this movement going? 58.
Real quick, before we move on, can I just point out the fact that gate 10, so we went from 11 to 10 in Sagittarius. Now we're on the cusp. So gate 10 is half in Sagittarius and it's halfway in Capricorn. Danny's birthday is right on the cusp of Sagittarius. Yeah. And so it's like 10 point, I'm not sure what line.
Right around 10.3, 10.2 and a half at this point. Because it moves a few minutes every year. It moves just a little bit.
So it can be a little tricky if you ask somebody when their birthday is, right? Like if they have a gate 10 in their conscious sun, they could either be it depends on what line it's in. If they're a Capricorn.
By the time you get to the third line, you're in the Capricorn part of it.
I think that's interesting. That's all.
Well, it is. And again, it moves all right along. So 58, we've done that now. It's fuel. And don't forget, all fuel, adrenalized fuel. So if you got a 58 in an open center, it's not your pressure to make sure you have the vitality that literally empowers the corrective process. That's not, you're not under pressure of that. Your type will be called or recognized or feel the impact of wanting to do that in the moment according to strategy and authority. Otherwise, it's not your pressure. And if you have a defined root, your guys are making the pressure. So live in the pressure field. You already deal with it fine anyways. Moving to gate 38. So this is movement in the wheel, and the transition of the joyous, this gate of vitality, it's about getting carried away. Getting carried away. It's this tendency, while thoroughly enjoying the external stimulation of sharing. The external stimulation is you sharing this corrective process. It has the instinct to draw back when its independent integrity is threatened. The energy to fuel the independent integrity that still maintains its own identity in times of stimulation or excess stimulation. So, and then the flip side of that is, oops, I forgot that part and I truly got carried away. You know? So it's either or. And so what happens after we're getting carried away genetically? How does this transition to the next gate in line? Gate 38, the fighter, the gate of opposition. We named it the fighter. The I Ching named it the gate of opposition. And what's it opposing? It's opposing the influence of the other because it's individual. It's adrenalized fuel to be in its own unique individual process. So the fighter, it's not Muhammad Ali, although it could be, but it's our own internal struggle to fight for our own purpose first, and don't try to influence me. The opposition influence. Hey, you better do this. Oh yeah, well now I'm not doing that. I'm going to do this. Hey, you better do it this way. Well, maybe and maybe not. You know, that's the fighter. I'm telling you, if you don't do it this way, it's going to be a problem.
Do any of you guys have gate 38?
I don't.
No, Ruben has 38 and I have 28, which is a real fun electromagnetic in a couple because that's like the channel of struggle. But people with a hanging 38, it's like they're not self, it wants to fight to fight. They just want to fight. They're going to fight. They're going to argue. They're going to fight with their words. They're going to fight with their bodies. You know, I see that in a lot of athletes. And again, this is like adrenalized stress and pressure. And so people with, especially hanging gate 38, they'll get depressed if they don't have something to fight. And so it's a really good idea to put them in. Again, this is, you know, when it comes into like the gates of melancholy and gates of depression, that's the melancholy around gate 38. And so it's important to, you know, if you have a kid with a hanging gate 38, encourage them to fight, give them a healthy outlet of getting their energy out in that type of way.
Yeah, and they're fighting everything. So if they're trying to unscrew the bolt, they're fighting with the screw and the bolt. If they're trying to ride their bike, they're fighting with riding it harder and faster, right? If they're playing a game of cards, they're fighting to win. You know what I mean? Or fighting to have a good hand. And the heading under the opposition to influence, really. And it's a gate of deafness. You know, if you have this gate in your body graph, you can be deaf to the other. There's a lot of them. The ability.
I think that would be like a defense mechanism when it comes to fighting.
Well, totally. I'm not hearing you. So
yes.
So that you can keep on with your original mutative, insightful fight.
Yeah. Dan, my Thatcher, he has gate 38 defined 2 times, connected to a defined root, and that's him to a T. It's like he'll fight over everything and anything, and with his siblings or with us, and both me and my husband, just like you, Tressa, have gate 28 on the other side. So sometimes it's like he doesn't know. It's like I know gate 38 is still supposed to figure out like what's worth using their energy for to fight for. And so that is something he's having to learn, is like what's worth putting his energy into to fight for that thing. And so I know they say gate 28 on the other side, like kind of knows what it is they should be fighting for, or, you know, like what's a good use of their energy.
Well, the heading,
but it's hard. I can't tell you how hard it is having a kid with gate 38, and like I can't even tell you, he just finds the dumbest like things to get mad about and to fight about, and he's like always fighting with people out in the neighborhood. Like I've had to go to like 3 different parents' houses to apologize because he started a fight with one of their kids, and so it's just been really, really hard. So sometimes like when I see gate 38, I'm like, anyways, sorry, that's my little experience with gate 38.
Does he have it on the design and the conscious side, or is it just
it's on both his design side? So
Okay.
it's in the lower planets. He has it defined twice in his body.
So he's communicating that out into the world, essentially. He's
as he can't control it.
Conscious. Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So he's got to learn what that is to him, and you can now constantly, obviously. So if you have a child with 38, you can start to tell them that you oppose the detrimental. Let me read the line. It's the ability to preserve your individual integrity. Now that's a great big deal for us, and we're liberated as we preserve our own individualism, right? To preserve that through the opposition to the detrimental forces. And the detrimental forces are people that try to influence you away from this struggle that you're rearing up to use this adrenalized energy to fight for. I'm gonna unscrew this nut and bolt. I need a torch to heat it up, whatever it is.
But for sure, yeah, my Thatcher, it's like he's deaf to me. I could sit there and tell him something and he's just like, whatever, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. So
what's
it's hard.
On the Peanuts, Charlie Brown, the teacher, right? That's what he hears.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He does that to me. And like, I've even caught myself saying to him, like, Thatcher, like, you're wasting your energy fighting on this. It's like, I've had to say that you're just wasting your energy. Like, I'm sorry, you have to go to school, like you can't not go to school, so things like that. Yeah, it's hard. That deafness, totally. Just wah. Anything I say is like one ear out in, one out the other. So
well, let's check. Who's going to say? Go ahead.
I was going to get a quick question. So for someone that has this gate, would they, to exert that energy that they have for fighting, with like kickboxing or boxing or something like that, be very therapeutic for them?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it wouldn't matter the type, I would say.
Right, absolutely. I do just want to kind of shed in the true self of Gate 38, because I think that this is one of those gates that can get a really bad rap.
Yep.
One of the most powerful things about Gate 38 that I've seen, and Danny, tell me what you've seen, these people will stand up. They will be the guard dog. They will stand up for people. They will lift people up. They will protect them. They will fight for them. And it's like a really neat quality to have in a person, the true self version. Like, no, this is wrong, and I'm gonna fight for this person. Don't pick on this person. It can be that aspect of it. So when I see Gate 38, I'm like, okay, either you're acting out in this way, or I want you on my team. I want you on my side, using all of that adrenalized pressure to fight for what's right.
Look
And
at
again,
the cross it's in. Look, it's in the cross of tension. And here, it's the tension to keep alive the struggle in your own unique individual process. So 58 was in the incarnation cross of service, the service to people, and every gate in that cross is collective. Now we come to the cross of tension, and this most of the gates are individual in nature. And it's 38 and 39 on the other side, the provocateur. They all want to fight. One's provoking things and just jabbing at, and the other one is coming out swinging. And again, not Muhammad Ali swinging, but it could be, but that would only be one aspect. But let's look at the transition.
Is it okay? Dan, is it okay if I just piggyback on what Tressa was saying? How it's like, I know, like she was saying, it is kind of like a negative connotation to like to fight and not to listen to people. But yeah, like if you look throughout history, it was probably the Gate 38s that were the ones who stood up to institutions or organizations that were treating people poorly or trying to homogenize everyone. People with Gate 38 would be the ones to stand up and be like, no, I'm not going to do that. Don't tell me what to do. Like, this is wrong how you're treating these people. And
I promise
you can see how they would be the ones to stand up for other people in organizations or families even that maybe were dysfunctional or treating people poorly or they would be the ones to stand up and get things to change, right? Because Gate 38 can mutate and evolve.
Yeah, it's wicked cool you point that out, Savannah, because think about it. At the signing of our Declaration of Independence, I promise you the fight was in that room. The fight was in that room to stand
probably
up.
Had some Gate 38s in there, right?
Yeah, it's staunchly individual. So in that room, 55 people signed that Declaration of Independence. And by the way, it was a death sentence. By the time it reached the king, that was a guaranteed death sentence. They would have all been hung had they lost the war. They would have been hunted down and hung, brought to trial and fake trial and hung. The ability to preserve the individual integrity. So that's what they were doing. And the foundation of this line, the first line of the foundation of this gate, the first line, remember, we left getting carried away. So we got carried away with our joy, but we tempered it with like knowing, oh my God, I might need to temper this. And what do we transition into? Line 1 out of 58, line 6, we turn into 38, line 1. It's called qualification, tempering opposition based on the circumstances. So after you got carried away, gate 38 comes along and says, no, we're going to temper that based on these circumstances. I got you. You got carried away. And then you transitioned into me. And genetically, I caught you. You got carried away. So I caught you. That's what the fighter does. It catches them. And what's it catching? It's catching the service of the incarnation cross of 58. The joy for all that service gets turned into a mutative process of our own individuality, keeping its unique nature amongst the opposition and the forces that wish to influence us. So the King of England wants to influence us. No. It came off of this, and now I'm moving into this. You can't, so you can see genetically, this is our story around the wheel. So it's tempering opposition based on the circumstances. The psychic gift of knowing when and how to fight. Or the fight, or the urge to fight as a general rule. So it could be either or, and neither of those is bad technically at all. So that was the movement in the wheel. 58 moved to 38, and 38 says, I'm individual. I'm in the individual stream of awareness. This is the stream of intuition going through the spleen. It's about empowering myself and the other. My fight will empower the purpose to life, and that will empower my comrades, the people I know, the people I love. And it's unique because it's individual. So it's also in a pulse, meaning the fight shows up. And in your Thatcher, if it's unconscious, the fight it just shows up out of the blue. Thatcher doesn't know what's about to happen. He's running along playing happily, and then 2 seconds later, put him up.
It happens all the time.
Yes,
all the time.
Out of the blue, out of what he hears acoustically. So it's here to be mutatively intuitive as to what is really going to be worth fighting for. So that's 38. Anyone want to add anything to 38?
Yeah, Cadella chimed in, and I just wanted to show her comment. She put, totally get this. I have the 3828 and the 5818. And that 18 is conscious sun and Mercury. And
so she's in the cross of service.
Yep.
Can I chime in about that whole channel of struggle, the 2838?
Yeah.
This is not a bad channel. This is one of the most beautiful individual aspects. These are people that get so much out of the struggle. You're not going to get anything out of it if it's not worth a fight, if it's not worth a struggle. That is growth for you. And it is such a beautiful, wonderful way of growing. And you can almost sometimes look at it like, the more I struggled, the more I grew. And it's a beautiful aspect in the chart. And so for people like that, with the whole channel of struggle, it's like, don't try to not struggle with things. Don't try to not fight with things. Just focus on the growth that's going to come from that fight and from that struggle, because it will always be there. It will always be there for you.
It will always be there. And
beautiful.
Just to remind everyone, this is the pressure to pressure the awareness to find out, to become aware intuitively of what is worth the fight. The game player, gate 28, this gate of needing to find the purpose to things. It's our human awareness and our proclivity to find a purpose in things. The apes don't necessarily find purposes in things. The rest of the animal kingdom, they're not really hunting down the purpose to it all. We are exclusively. We have to do this. It's a must-have for humanity's growth. So again, the whole point of this whole 2 to 3 part series is the pressure that pressures awareness. Right? I mean, awareness is awareness is not an airy fairy thing that you get to. Well, it is whatever it is to you, but awareness becomes under pressure genetically speaking, we're designed to feel the pressure to become more aware and more conscious and more aware of our environment, more aware of all things. You know, here's Elon Musk struggling to get out into space. I'd love to look at his chart again. I bet he's got one of these two gates. So, you know, the pressure to expand our consciousness. So what happens when we get to the end of that? So the foundation of this is called qualification, tempering based on the circumstances, tempering the struggle and the fuel you will pour into this fight. So now we need to transition out of that. So we go through the sun's going through all these gates, and 5.5 or 6 days later, it gets to line 6 of this gate. And line 6 is called, it's entitled misunderstanding. It's the opposition without a bias, meaning it doesn't always understand what's the scoop on the other side. Eventually, crystallization, which clears up misunderstanding. So gate 6, transitional power, is the energy which attracts the misunderstanding and the stubbornness to face that opposition. So gate 6 is doing a clearing out process. Hey, whatever misunderstanding is left out there, whatever is still opposed out there, as a transitional nature in our genetic matrix, I'd like to attract it one more time. So I, as a role model, gate 6, can be myself within all of that and be the role model to you as to what that's all about. And with this, now genetically, we're going to transition out of gate 38, the fighter. And where do we go? Once you've figured out and attracted all the last things and come up with the basic meaning of what you're fighting for, and you're wrung it out, gate 6 gets to wringing out the last fight in society, attract it, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. And it finally withstands all of that because it's a role model, the living embodiment of what it is to be itself. What's the transition for the individual as they are trying to come up with their own purpose? Where do you go?
Drive.
You do a very Capricorn thing. You go for the money.
My son has the 54. My son has the 54. The whole channel, actually, 54 to 32.
He is driven to want to get to the resources that protect the tribe, and he's very conservative about all of that, except he's also not in the early times of his life because he's learning what that is. And his great skill will be that conservatism as it relates to holding on to what's making success.
It fits him to a T. He for being 17 years old, he is very entrepreneurial. I will say that, and good with money and saves it and doesn't waste it. I mean, like I keep telling him I'm super proud of him because he didn't learn that from me or his dad.
It's built into him.
Mm-hmm.
It's that 54 32. Like Taylor Swift has that channel, so they want to be seen. They're driven to be ambitious, to have success, be recognized, like have their gifts and talents, be able to make money for the tribe. So it's kind of fun to like see what some of these gates or channels in celebrities and things like that. And so
are really doing, yeah.
I am not a celebrity, but 54 is my moon. So I have a Capricorn moon. And when you look on my chart, my gate 54 is my moon. And so that drives me. And, you know, when I want to do something, when it comes to a business or an entrepreneurship or on that aspect, I do it. And I can't even explain what happens inside of me. It's this compulsion, it's this need, it's this desire, it's the drive. And so I feel like that's something that I'm like, oh, that made a lot of sense to me when I first started to discover human design.
And evolutionarily, it makes a lot of sense because we just came off the fighter who was absorbing and wringing out the last bit of fight around him. And once that's been done, suddenly everyone can become supportive into the tribe. Time to make some money, have some resources. And it's not just money. It's about resources and stability and the continuity of the tribal nature. It's in the awareness stream we call instinct. So this 54 can smell it. It can smell the opportunity to rise up the ladder. It's called the marrying maiden. And it's the gate of drive, being driven, interaction in its mundane context, but also in one's mystical cosmic relationships with stuff. It's all things pressured to interact in a supportive way or not as it relates to the resources you're going to bring back into the tribe. And you can smell it, you can taste it, you can smell it, you can hear it, you can sort of feel it in a way because it's instinctual. So all these things go through the spleen as this immediate instinctual hit. They're absorbing, right, the pressure of the adrenalized pressure of the root and instinctually acting on that, making it be something. So it's
because Jen, you have gate 54, don't you? And what planet is it in?
Me?
Jen?
No, I don't have 54. I have 41, I believe. Yeah. My son has 54. And his is in, where is his? 54. His is in his moon too.
So he's driven like you, Tressa.
He has a Capricorn moon.
Yeah, his is in his moon. And what you were describing, Tressa, like it really does. It fits him to a T.
Yeah.
So moving around the wheel, what does this say about our individuality? Our individuality is designed genetically to seek the resources that bring the continuity and the success of the tribe, instinctually. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And gate 54 has a mirroring maiden. So after the fighter is figured out the last fight it's going to take, and it goes into the first line of the marrying maiden, and that first line, this foundational line, is the ability to achieve the influence. It's looking to be influence. It's called influence through secret relationships, anywhere from private relationships to the person who will go way out into the occult, potentially the Satanist, who knows what. It's secret relationships. And it's all about trying to acquire secretiveness and to find out what is going to be that one thing that I've identified that's going to help me move up the ladder. So in a factory situation, someone on the factory floor, they recognize someone in management, and they manage to get next to him one day because they've got some secret knowledge that this person eats lunch every day around 12:30. So they go to lunch every day 12:30 until they can bump into them in the lunch line. That would be a secret knowledge. They're always gathering, hey, what'd you say? And then they keep it to themselves. This is tribal. So we're going to support my tribe. So they're not about to share it with anyone else. Sharing, we got past sharing long ago. We moved into deafness, and now we're moving into the tribe. And the tribe is looking to support itself and the other in the tribe instinctually and create a continuity, and it wants to move up. That's why the individual moves towards the money. And don't look at that coldly like it's something that's antiseptic and gross. It's just look at money like the resource. We look at money as resource at today's day and age, but it's all resource.
If it wasn't cash, if it wasn't cash, it'd be something tangible.
Right. Something tangible.
I love you guys. I have a consultation in a few minutes. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize when I hopped on, but I have to go.
Bye, Tressa.
I'll listen back.
Thank you for joining.
Yes, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, hey,
okay,
Tressa, post this. Yeah. Post our link on your thing. Say that you were on here and get it onto your Instagram. Post it up.
I will.
Love you.
Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
So what else do we want to say about this gate 54? It's the wanting, the marrying maiden, the gate of drive. What did you write here, Savannah? The pressure to achieve and transformation. This is the channel of transformation. I can't believe I forgot that one. The pressure to transform in the material plane, the drive for success, and to overcome the fear of failure, the drive to set in place something stable enough that need not fear failure. Mm-hmm. That's important pressure.
Because I have gate 54. I can't remember which planet it's in, but I need to go look that up. But yeah, it's like the drive to succeed, right? The drive to have financial success, the drive to take care of to bring in the resources, to take care of your family. Because, right, it's a tribal gate. So gate 54, it's all about giving and receiving support. And so they want to be seen, they want to be recognized for their gifts and their talents so that they can use that to bring in financial success for themselves and their family.
Yes, Savannah, they want to be seen. So think about that. So this is a projected channel because it's not generated and it's not a manifestor channel. So if no one's seeing it, and it doesn't matter what type it's in, If no one's seeing it, that person's going to start to feel off. They're going to start to feel agitated. They're going to start to feel bitter about some of that. There's going to be moments of that sense of it all, and it's a pressure. So
Yes.
it's a pressure center.
I was just going to say, one time I had a friend, and she had the whole channel, the 5432, and she was like, because, right, I feel like we're kind of taught, like, oh, it's not good to want attention. It's not good to want to be seen by other people, and, like, you know, and so she was, like, feeling all this guilt about it. But then when I, like, read through Gate 54 and 32, it was like, no, like, it's put within you to want to be seen, want to be, yeah. And so, what was that?
You freed her, Savannah.
Yes, I helped her just release some of that, you know, like, she's feeling bad about herself, like feeling like she was being egocentric or something for wanting to be recognized. And but yeah, so I would just say, like, it's normal if you have that gate to want to be seen, want to be acknowledged, wanting people to see your talents,
wanting to bring your transformative nature into yourself, into the tribe, and that transformative nature likes to rise up the ladder and feel that movement towards the successfulness of becoming more than from where it started. The ancient I Ching called it the marrying maiden. And the story of the marrying maiden is a very simple one. It was the concubine that through transformation drove herself all the way up the ladder and became the empress. The concubine that became the empress. That's the marrying maiden. So in the beginning of her life, she was just married off. Hi, I'm a marrying maiden. Someone will tell me who my husband is. No control over anything. To suddenly the empress, the supreme controller, and the supreme controller of the resources. So that's that, with a lot of money. Because evolutionarily speaking, when we leave our individual nature out of 38, we would like to go for the money.
Mm-hmm. So people would make really great entrepreneurs if they had Gate 58 or the whole channel, right, Dan? They would make good.
You mean 54? Yeah.
Or just 54, or would you say the whole channel?
Or the whole channel, either or, because if 54 means they'll attract the 32 and they'll attract their way. They're open to it. If they have the whole channel, they are it. Either way, they're it. They're open to it, and so they'll learn, or they are it and they're driving it. It's about being driven. I'm driven. You know, I'm a tennis player. Hit the ball, hit the ball, hit the ball, win, count each match. You know, I'm in business. I'm driven to do better and better. I have a loan officer in my company. He's got this channel. He's best loan officer in the company as it relates to everything. They're driven. Everywhere I see this person is driven, or they're very sad.
Mm-hmm. And don't they tend to kind of like overwork themselves? It's almost like they have so much drive and ambition that they can become like workaholics and just kind of burn themselves out, right?
If your adrenaline is moving your body all the time and you have this and you're not aware of it, then suddenly you can find yourself driven to ruining your body. Driven to doing too much, to this, to that, to just, and the next thing you know, you didn't give yourself the proper rest and recuperation in between stuff, and suddenly you wear your physical vehicle out. That is a strong thing. It's driven. It's adrenalized driven. How do you turn off adrenaline? You tell me.
Yeah.
You don't.
Also the root, it works in a pulse, right? So the root is like this on-off switch.
Well, no, if you have it defined, it's on. If you have
I thought it was still working like a pulse, but is that not the case?
It's the individuality that works in the pulse. So we left the pulse with Gate 38, the fighter.
Oh, okay.
Yep. All good. And we transitioned out of just wildly attracting the fight into the ability to achieve influence through relationships. So basically, after the fighter attracted all the fight and everything came out, then they sort of got introspective and transitioned into this first line of Gate 54, which is more conservative. It's wicked conservative. It's like, hey, chill out. I would like the influence. Ambition energized through chilling out and sort of more covert relationships where you're not spilling out all over the place. You're certainly not attracting attention and the fight like 38 line 6 was.
Yeah.
You stopped attracting it and you got straightened out into something that's a little more covert. It's like, hey, chill out, man. We're just trying to make more money here. Just go easy. That's the foundation of 54. It's this energy to for secret relationships, which fuels the influence. And in the second expression of that, it's ambition, which demands formal recognition. So they're not secret relationships. It's I demand formal recognition. And when they're around the right forces, they will get it. And when they're around the wrong forces, they won't. And that's correct for them. It's not a low expression of this gate. There's no low expression of this gate. It's a mystical gate. It's the only gate that of all the gates of the I Ching, this is the only gate that has a mystical line in it, line 54, line 4, that totally diverges from the old I Ching. It's the only spot where you find a line that has nothing to do with gate 54, line 4 of the old Chinese I Ching. It's the only true divergence. And it also happens to be where our unusualness was. Uranus was in gate 54 I think it was Uranus at the point of our discovery of it. We discovered it when we were in 54, line 4.
Interesting.
So, a hinging, unique, mutative point for humanity to then turn 9-centered and diverge from the old I Ching. We needed a pop that diverged us from the old I Ching, and we got it in 54, line 4. It's an incredibly mystical line. So,
oh, wow, I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that.
Yep, it's a wicked cool part of the story. So, 54.
It's called the Alpha and the Omega, the end and the beginning.
Yep. See, everyone, when you see us looking down, we're all reading our book. We're reading the same lines out of the book. This is what you're supposed to do. Get the book. Can anyone?
I'm going to see what the animal totem is for this one.
Yeah, see, if you see this book, get this book, and we will talk through lines with you, and we can have a whole discussion on lines over and over and over again. It'll be wonderful.
The animal totem for this gate is the beaver, which would make sense to me because what does the beaver do?
Builds and builds and builds and builds.
Builds for the tribe, for its family and its community.
What they're collecting, the resources.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And good beavers will move to the head of the beaver tribe. LOL. And they're accumulating water. They're accumulating water, and when we were in communion with our environment, that water was important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Something tells me ancient tribalism didn't, and not that long ago tribalism, and even smart trappers and people that, whatever, they didn't destroy beaver dams in the first place. They built around them for the resource.
Yes.
They were in communion with their environment. We should do more of that.
Well, when you go, my dad would teach us that when we would go hunting, you don't disturb those type of areas because it's disturbing the whole container as a whole. Yep. Because those beavers are smart. They'll place a dam and it will actually, sometimes it's not a good place, but most of the times they're really good places to help the river and the stream and everything else that's going on around it. And
the basin and the life and everything that, yes, absolutely. So there are little partners in all of this. We should let the beavers do all of the damming. From this moment forward in humanity, we'll get a lot farther in life. So the marrying maiden, the drive to move up the ladder as it cycles through, and 5.5 to 6 days later, it reaches its 6th line, ready to transition into gate 61. Notice these are, again, so have we been describing Capricorn in all of this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So as we move up through all the lines, discretion, enlightenment, endarkenment, magnanimity, when we get to line 6, it's selectivity. So this adrenalized energy starts with a foundation of secretive relationships and or a demand to be formally recognized. And when it's gone through its whole process of being recognized and trying to be of an influence to something else as it relates to the material way, suddenly 54, 54 line 6 says selectivity. The ingrained responsibility in terms of maintaining security and personal identity that will naturally restrict its relationships to ones that are mutually beneficial. So the foundation of it was hunting around for the right secret relationships. And then the apex of this, essentially, where it becomes the role model is, hey, I'll hunt around all I want, but I'm selective here. And I'm going to maintain my selectiveness. And if you try to force me to step outside of this selectiveness, I will not bond with you. It's tribal. I'm selective in who I will bond with and support. Because remember, once you bond with someone in a tribal nature, you have to support them. That's a big deal. Support requires you to be up close and just what the stream of awareness says, instinctiveness. It's about smelling it. I can smell it. And bonding and support, you got to be close enough to the person you can smell them. That's pretty personal. Tribal definition is always the most personal between interrelationally. It's like, hey, I supported you. You got to support me. And it's like, well, we just got divorced and I hate your guts. We're still in the same tribe. We have children. You have to support me. And then the two reasonable tribal people will be like, yeah, I don't like you, but we're not going to bring that to the children, and we will support each other in an upright manner. That's how our tribe keeps us together. If every divorce were just individual and collective with no tribal nature, we would be spinning out of control at all times. The fighter would come out fighting. The joy for correction would try to correct the other in the courtroom, for God's sakes. No divorce would ever end. The challenge would permanently be there to stay challenged. And, the need for support tempers all of that. And that's the tribe. And so as a role model, it shows up to say, that's it. I have the energy to restrict relationships that hinder my ambition. What a role model thing to be. Doesn't mean you have to be bad to the other person, but you restrict them in that moment because they're hindering your ambition. And who's your ambition? Well, we just know from the wheel, it just came a moment before, and that you individual fighter. The fighter told us where that ambition is technically going from. And where did the fighter get that juice from? The joy of life in the hexagram before it, in the wheel. So you see how it's telling a story. The vitality leads to the fighter. The fighter figures out the purpose. The purpose is, let's have ambition to be tribally secure. This is a natural genetic way for us to move through the wheel this way. And so this selectivity and the or the other expression, which can be the waste of energy in maintaining relationships, which hinder the limitation. So that would be this other expression of this gate. Sometimes you hang on to the relationship too long. That hinders this transitional power you have to influence and find out exactly what ambitions are going to be right for you. So selectivity is what's happening here. So once we're selective, after we figured out what our ambition's going to be, and the marrying maiden has his purpose and has her joy and vitality to do it all, because don't forget, that's all bred in. It's in the system. After that joy and vitality and that purpose comes into that ambition, and that ambition is tribal and wanting to support the other, where do we go after we've been a role model and selective with all of this? Where do we go in the wheel? The next gate in the wheel is gate 61. So notice this pressure is just moving. The pressure, there's a big chunk of this adrenalized pressure, which we didn't get to last week because it wasn't quite the same, that is sitting here moving in succession along the wheel. It means this is a wicked important spot in the wheel. This is a wicked important function, the way we're reading it to all of humanity, because now we stepped into the second pressure center, the pressure center of the head center. Pressure, it pressures the mind or our ability to drive concepts. It provides the inspiration, and when the head center is inspired, questions, doubts, various confusions that get sent down to the ajna to be processed. It's the pressure to make sense of the past, provide solutions for the future, and understand basically the mystery of this present moment, basically knowing in the now. And that's where we're going. We're going to gate 61, inner truth. So after you've restricted the people that are going to be in your tribe while you gain influence and move up the ladder, after that restriction has happened, the next step in the wheel, what's the inner truth of all of this? Genetically speaking, the very next set of babies being born at that next set of 5.5, 6 days are, what's the truth of all of that? Again, think of how this sews us up. The vitality for the process of identification, the struggle and the fighter for the purpose into the material way, because we need a material way to survive. We're abundant when we have lots of stuff. We have enough stuff to be a survival minded, and it's all good. We don't fear for survival. When we're no longer afraid for our survival, tribally speaking, the next step is, okay, hey, we got some time. What's the inner truth to all of this? The channel of awareness. Let's figure out what the hell. So we just went through a genetic process of basically setting up a situation where we're going to have a little extra time. And when we have a little extra time, we get to have mental pursuits. And the inspiration that comes in first, what the hell? Let's answer the question of what the hell. The head center is here to pressure what's going on. It's translating our existence. It's the pressure to translate the existence through conceptualizing. Go ahead, Savannah.
Isn't like gate 61? Isn't it on the cross of consciousness?
It's on the. Oh no, 61. Where? Thank you for that. So we left the cross of. We had left the cross of tension. We'd gone into 54. Oh dang, I forget what that cross is. But we move into someone chime in with what that cross is. 54.
Cross of Maya, the cross of the Maya, is it 61?
61 is the cross of the Maya. So when we leave 54 and we start transitioning out in that gate 6, we move to 61 line 1, and we start answering the question of what is this all about?
Why are we here, right? Kind of like asking the question,
we move into the Maya. We move into the cross of the Maya. Yep. And where is
gate 61 is because the 3 top gates connected to the head center. Gate 64 is asking the why questions. Gate 61 is asking the what questions, and then gate 63 is asking the how.
Absolutely.
Right. Each one of them trying to answer a different type of kind of question in a sense. So gate 61 is always wanting to know what. Like, what is this?
What the hell? Just where I started. Just because it's a pressure that we can't know what that pressure is. It's not an awareness. The awareness gets figured out in the concepts in the conceptualization of the ajna center below it. So it's not aware of what the hell, but it's the pressure for what the heck. Basically, I'd like to translate my own existence and the meaning of myself in the existence with the other. And so gate 61 is, so let me make sure 54, give me 1 second here, guys. 54, the marrying maiden, the right angle cross of penetration, the penetrating awareness of to know what's worth the fight, what's worth correcting. So when we've got all that figured out and we transition out of that 6th line of gate 54, which is selectiveness, we're selectively got time on our hands to go ahead and move to the Maya, basically the everything. It's time to move into the Maya field. And what is the Maya field? Gate 61 is called I Ching called it the inner truth. We call it the gate of mystery. It's the awareness of universal underlying principles. And since it's individual and in the pulse, the underlying principles are knowing in the now when the timing is right. It's knowing in the now when the timing is right. The individual mutative pulse. So it's not always there, but when it shows up, it's pressure to think.
Pressure to think, pressure to ask what is.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, exactly.
Someone who has this gate on a defined center, their mind is probably always going, always trying to answer questions, always trying to...
Confusing, Savannah. What the hell? A new pulse. What the hell again? A new pulse. What the hell again? So it can seem maddening to them. Like, let's say it's unconscious in them. They need to know their mind is always on, even in between the pulse. Just because you're in between the pulse, then your brain and the pineal gland up top are still receiving all of this. They are the pressure. They're creating the pressure, and at that moment that they're creating the pressure, it's ongoing. Just because you're in between the pulses where there's silence, now the pressure is sitting there waiting as an active state of awareness with its potential, ready to go. I know. It's ready.
So they have really active minds. They probably have a hard time. They can't turn off their minds. If you had this gate 61 with it defined, Or what if it was not defined? Would that change how it explains?
Well, they would still, they would think they're tortured with intermittent on and off, not knowing what the hell, and the open mind thinking about things that don't matter, concerning themselves with too muchness. This open head center in a person would suddenly act out their not self theme of thinking that they're always supposed to be thinking about what the hell. When really,
can't they get anxiety if they, like, the pressure kind of just builds and they feel like they can't come up with the answer?
Yeah.
And so it can lead to this like mental anxiety over not knowing, not.
Well, absolutely. Does anyone here have a Gate 61? I don't.
I don't.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have the other two. I have the channel of abstraction, the 6447, and then I have Gate 63.
Yep. Jennifer, you and I have that exact same configuration. So if you have an open head center, let's just talk about that first. Define head center is always on, doing what the head center is genetically designed to do, pressure us to translate the meaning of our existence, the pressure to translate existence. I always, when I'm talking to a client, I always reframe it to pressure to answer, what the hell? What the heck? Or just, You know, so why am I here? What's the deal? Who am I? What, why, what, how? Just like you said.
Were you like that constantly all your life? Like, were you trying to figure out why you were here?
Oh, on and off. Yeah. And then I knew why I was here. And then I was figuring it out again. And then I knew. And then I would have to stop and figure it out again, because it kept metamorphosizing as we're supposed to do.
Exactly. Yes. I love how you said that, metamorphosizing.
It's not the pressure to actually get to the answer. It's the pressure to develop and stay within the process throughout the whole life and give that uniqueness to the other along the way and hand it down through the generations. Write it in a book. It's going to be of value along the way. We humans create our continuity by the lives we live. And this is the pressure to live a very unique life. Your own unique knowing. I mean, at the top of the channel, inner truth, the gate of mystery, awareness as a universal underlying principles, the awareness of them. And the first line of this, so we left 54, the marrying maiden, right? That drive to be at the end, the role model that, you know what? I've been driven. I got through my fifth line process where I was seductive and everyone thought I was driven and they're all looking at me. But now I'm the sixth line role model ready to transition. So when you're transitioning out of that marrying maiden and that ambition and that drive to move up, where do you go? You go to inner truth and occult knowledge. You go to the need and the natural psychic awareness. It's our natural intuitive attuneness that empowers the principles of universalization, the pressure to know the mystery through the esoterics, through all this crazy stuff that could be. And it's not crazy stuff after a while. We thought, dude, 30 years ago, there was a whole scientific community that would say, sure, prove it as it relates to astrology. Oh, no, and they rolled their eyes at astrology. And now everyone's realizing, there's wisdom in astrology. I'm talking about the scientific community that started to poo-poo everything, along with like naturopathic medicine, for instance. Yes. You know, it's all a drug, it's all a pill. Doctors read from a script. No, that's not occult knowledge. Occult knowledge is, hey, I tried these herbs, I tried these plants, I noticed this root extract has this molecular structure, and the other 61 in my group has a microscope and he can identify the structure, and the other Gate 61 in our group with that whole channel, you know what? They came to a sudden knowing that molecule happens to meet up with this thing. And suddenly the foundation of mystery and coming up with sudden knowing, the channel of awareness, becoming aware of these underlying principles, is occult knowledge, looking into all the aspects, all the pertinent aspects, which in the book, they just call it the esoterics. It's and they want to universalize that because it needs to empower the other. And sometimes the pressure to know the mystery is so strong that it can eventually incapable of handling any of the realities. So basically, the other expression of that is they go overboard. But where do we move in the wheel? Like I said, the next movement in the wheel from 54, the marrying maiden, is to figure out what the hell. And we do so as a foundational process of looking into occult knowledge, not cult knowledge. So anyone listening to this, don't try to pigeonhole this discussion into some kind of awful cult. It's called occult knowledge, of which our precious science is very much a new occult knowledge. We don't have it all. We don't have all the science wrapped up yet. No one's ever going to have all the answers. So much of our knowledge is esoteric as it relates to what the future will look back on and say, my God, what were they thinking? So science can't sit here and put a badge on itself saying, oh, the science is settled. It's esoteric, even though it's concrete, because we can measure distances between stars. We can measure the mass of things. We got, it's very concrete in so many ways, but we don't know it all. We're still in an esoteric phase of figuring out what's the rest of our knowledge going to be.
Mm-hmm. So Dan, does gate 61, does it pass it to gate 64 to understand why? Why? Or does it go the other way?
When we're done with this, absolutely. We're going to go to 64 and then to 63, or maybe we can go to 63. I would say it passes it to 63 first, and it concludes it with 64.
Oh, so that's how it goes. It goes 61 to 64.
I don't know. It doesn't go any one particular way because gate 64 is called before. It's called before completion, and gate 63 is called after completion. So maybe we could go backwards. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the inner truth, again, this unique, mutative, in a pulse, melancholic if it can't have it, empowering, seeks to empower the other, pressure the ajna to come up with rationale for what it just came up with. Hey, I just have the pressure to solve the mystery. I've got the pressure for what the hell. And the ajna picks it up in gate 24, and it becomes the whole channel of mystery, whereby gate 24 returns and returns and returns until it comes up with a cool rationale for that, an explanation, basically. It comes up with an explanation and a structure for all of that, and a sudden knowing it can explain. This channel gives us sudden knowing, along with the channel below it, the channel of structuring. They work in tandem to move through the ajna center, our awareness to conceptualize over all of time, memory, and it turns it into an explanation that empowers humanity to have something new. It's mutative. So, the tribe doesn't always like mutative things, but they will take it. And so the tribal gate of 54, the next logical place was to answer the question, as we're rising up the ladder and driven to basically transform, what is it we're transforming? The channel of transformation, starting with gate 54 that we just left in the wheel, moves from transformation to awareness. That's a pretty big deal. So, and then 61, as it gets done and it goes through its whole process, it's at the very end of the process, it's just inspiration that can bring clarity to the collective. So it's about ready to share again. And where's it going? It's going to 2 collective gates. Think of the logic of this transitional way. So gate 61, line 1, ends up moving into a collective gate. Well, actually, on the wheel, I don't know that it moves into collective gate. Can you pull up the wheel? What do we got? Oh, no, 61 moves into an individual gate before it moves into a collective gate. But back to the head center, back to the body graph that you just had up. If you look, this process on the left is 64 and on the right is 63. So this individualness sits right smack in the cradled in the middle of the need to share what the rest of the pressure process is. So, and it says it right in the line. It's an amazing ability for us to basically, the inspiration that can bring clarity to the collective. That's the role model position of 61, line 1. It's become itself. It's gone through its life process, and it is a living embodiment as itself to be exactly that. So it's the pressure to know something new. I'm reading this. It's to know the unknowable. Oh yeah, that's the thing about 61. It's a pressure to know the unknowable and to basically unravel the mysteries. Can anyone read that of ourselves and others? And
in the universe, mental anxiety manifests when unable to know or understand mysteries or resolve uncertainty.
So there's a pressure here that has its melancholy. I'm uncertain. I can't know. I'm sad, until the pressure comes and finally reaches its end result, gate 24 on the other side. And it can turn into a new rationale, a new knowing that's getting ready to do exactly what gate 61, line 6 says, a possibility to empower the collective, to empower the others. I mean, what else should inner knowing do? What happens when you solve the mystery? You want to share it. Yet it's in the individual definition, which is not really about sharing. It's about empowering the other. So 61 feels super empowered when its line 6 is able to share what its unique knowing through the whole process, that is, ends up being. What the knowing that it pressured gets shared. It gets shared with 64. So we're moving now into 64. I'm going to stop the line. I'm just going to do the foundation process of these.
Yeah. We never explained to everybody what exactly you were talking about with the lines. It's when you pull up your chart, guys, you see the 64 point whatever. Those are the different lines that Danny is talking about.
And there's 6 lines per hexagram. And as we move around the sun, it moves through each line. Look at each line like an arc of the wheel. Each line takes up, a few minutes of arc of a wheel, basically. And so as it goes through each line, second line, third line, fourth line, fifth, the 6th line is always the role model line. And in our genome, it's the transitioning portion of, it's a transitioning amino. These are 6 amino acids lined up on top of each other genetically. There's 6 explanations that show up on the surface that we live out in our practical lives. So
yeah, because you can have the same gate as somebody, like you could have the same gate 61, but if you have a different line of that gate, it can change how it's expressed, right?
It will absolutely change how it's expressed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
each line has a type of energy or theme or archetype, and so it kind of flavors how that gate expresses for you. So
it literally flavors it and changes it, and sometimes changes it drastically.
Yes. Yeah.
Think about the movement from a first line to a second line. We were talking about that last night, Savannah.
Yeah, how different they are. How different a line is from a line. And I know we did a whole episode on the lines. So if people are curious, we have one on what each, like the archetype and energy of each of the 6 line is in the hexagram. So
yep. And that recording is actually going to go into our vortex. So now we go this other pressure. So 64 before completion. So the mystery is constantly being aided in doing this dance with gate 64. Gate 64 says, I'm confused. It's the pressure for confusion. It's the need that we have genetically to have a pressure that confuses us to pressure the realization process. If we're not confused about anything, we're not going to realize anything. We're going to have no abstract process. We're not going to come to any new aha moments quite the way we would if we had the pressure to be confused.
So all of us have gate 64. Is that right? We all have.
I have it. I have the full channel.
Yep.
Okay. So do you, Dan. Okay. Yep. What planet is your gate 64 in?
I have it twice. It's in my Uranus and in my Pluto.
Mine is in Saturn.
I think it's in.
Okay. Because my 64 is in my moon, in my design moon. So it's like my inner world, constantly trying to understand the why of what something happened or making sense of what happened in the past, right? Because gate 64 is focused on the past and making sense of it.
Yeah, making sense. That's where the confusion comes from. It comes from the stuff that just happened or happened years ago. Don't forget, leading to mind, so frequency over all of time. So it could be stuff that happened years ago that the mind held on to as, quote, memory.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So it can lead to anxiety if you can't sorry, someone just knocked on my door. You can't make sense of like what happened and the meaning and purpose behind why something happened. Sometimes it can give you anxiety, right?
Right.
So pressure to figure out the why behind what's happened, right?
Absolutely. And was that the keynote we're giving this abstract channel, this thing? It's about, so one is the what, one is the why, and one is the how. Is that what you had, Savannah?
Yes.
Those are good keynotes. The what is what the hell? That's 61. That's the definition of 61. Huh? What? And 64 is how'd that go? How? I'm confused. How? Or is it why? No, actually it's why. Yeah. 64.
I'm always asking why.
Yeah. Why is what? Yeah, that 64 is absolutely. Yeah. That's a perfect keynote, Savannah. Why? Why did that? Why? So I always ask my parents why. I was a big why person at all times. Why?
Sometimes, like, because I have gate 64.2, and pretty much it's like I will get myself into this like mental anxiety if I can't trying to make sense of things or things that happened, and so I can just get
lost
really
in the
upset.
confusion. So for you, it shows up as getting lost into that confusion.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Anxiety. Yes. Mental anxiety.
Mental anxiety. So if you have an open head center, you're prone to the mental anxiety of not knowing what to think about, thinking about
not understanding. Like it bothers me if I can't understand something or why something happened the way that it did. It will really bother me.
Yes. So it is a perfect keynote, the keynote of why. And remember, guys, it's a genetic structure in us. It's pressuring us to do this. So we're not supposed to be free of it. We need no psychologist's psychoanalysis couch to say, how do I get rid of this? We're under pressure to have it as a genetic construct. Transcendence says, make peace with it. And if you have an open head, then you recognize it's intermittent. That means you don't always get to know why. And then you start to realize no one really gets to know why. It doesn't matter if you have the whole channel. It doesn't mean you're right. It just means you're constantly working on it and it's correct for you, as opposed to the open center where it's intermittent and you think it's a problem that you're not constantly working on it, coming up with these realizations that are in gate 47 right below it, this gate of oppression. So this gate feels oppressive until it can come to realizations through a transit field and through others connecting it. And if you have the whole channel and have a defined head center, you just realize, well, I'm generally oppressed until I realize stuff. It seems to be a process in me. What's wrong? I don't get, because I don't know why. Hey, you got having a good day? Yeah, I figured out why. It's a great day. Hours later, well, I'm not so sure about that why, because pretty soon we're about to move to gate 63. Right? So I think we finished gate 64. It's a pressure to be confused. Let me read the line. Transition. Oh, this is what sign is 64 in? Go back to the wheel. 64.
It is, hold on.
Yeah, it's going to be on the right hand side. Yeah, it's almost dead right hand side. It's at about 3:30 or 3 p.m. on the right hand side. 3 p.m.
It's right here. It is in Virgo. Oh, yes. Virgos are very I'm not going to say like structure, but they're very organized. They can be a little too,
because they're always figuring out why.
Yes.
So that means they're also disorganized in the moments in between when they don't know why. Is that right?
Yes. Virgos that I know, if they don't know why, they get very discombobulated.
And they don't necessarily share all that discombobulation easily, do they?
Analytical, perfectionist, selfless service, practical, critical, efficient, attention to detail.
Yeah,
those are all.
So I'm a Virgo moon. Like I remember learning that in astrology. I have a Virgo moon, and that's crazy because gate 64 is in my moon. So that's so cool how it all kind of ties together.
It all ties together, and it gets much more specific. So let me read the heading below the line. Transition. So this is the transition from confusion to sudden realization. So transition, like birth, oops, you already know it's going to be hard, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through. The baby ain't coming out if the baby and mom aren't determined through that birthing process to basically dock that ship on land and free on the land and soil. And
so wait, Jen, you said we moved on to gate 63, is that right? And Jen, you have that one?
Yeah, we're about to. We're just getting done with 64, just because I wanted to read the line. So this gate 64, it's the pressure to transition into a new thing you can share with the collective, the new why, the answer to why, basically. And like birth, it requires this determined strength. So when you're sick of your 64 torturing you because you have an open head center and you're driven to be tortured by it, you start to see it. Seeing it kills it. And you start to realize this isn't my torture. This is my process. I can watch it. And sure, it feels like torture here and there, but it's so much less. I've mitigated it because ultimately it's going to pressure this transition. And I need the determination so I can continue with the passage through. And the foundation of all of that is simply being in the right conditions. It's amongst the confusion, difficulty in finding the point, that becomes a process you can embrace. Hey, as soon as I recognize I'm having difficulty finding the point, why, right? The point, you accept that. So tomorrow I'm still having difficulty finding the point. I need determination so that I can survive the transition of this difficult passage through, like birth.
I may let it go, but I always come back. I come back full circle because I'm looking for that why.
Well, right. Well, you and I are designed to. Our head is always on doing that. We're doing that work for the planet. Everywhere you see a life force in your body graph, you're doing that work for the planet. We need it. There's only 36 channels, guys. It's not like we can do without one of them. We need them all. You know, there aren't that many.
Something I just thought about is, so pretty much each gate, you could tie it to each of the signs in astrology and then add them up and then see which one you have the most of. And that would tell you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We should do that, Savannah, and see.
Let's do that. You want to do that next week?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I didn't make this connection until we started going over this. Cause I know sometimes people won't identify with the gate that's in their sun, right? Cause I'm a Sagittarius. But then I have like a Virgo moon and a Virgo. I have a whole bunch of Virgo. So that might be why I might resonate more with more of another astrology sign than what's in like my sun or something like that. So I think this would be kind of fun, is to go through each of the gates, find what astrology sign it is, and then see what you have the most of. And so that's why I think this is really fun, because it ties together astrology and human design. I feel like human design can go way, way, way deep, but it's cool to tie them together and help explain, like,
well, it brings up the essence into what makes human design. I mean, I think it would be very good to look into that. I'm intrigued to know.
Me too.
Well, and so moving on, now that we've determined that we need determination and the strength to carry this birth-like process through, because so realization is a birthing-like process. It ain't easy. It can be painful, but it's painful to our not self. Our awake and aware self just sees that there is some difficulty, and I will be there when I'm meant to be there. And so after you come up with the why, pressured initially by that gate 61, the mystery of what the hell. So gate 61 just pours mystery of not knowing. That's confusing all by itself. It twangs that string of confusion. Boom, I'm now confused as well. Lots of pressure. All this pressure pointing at the ajna to come to aware of concepts that are going to help basically get to the throat center at the bottom of the ajna and come up with the opinions and the ideas and the insights and the breakthroughs and all the logical and abstract processes that we could possibly come up with experiencing and putting into motion. Now we get to gate 63, and gate 63 says after completion. So here we are, the mystery shows up, and now we're before completion, and then after completion, it's this beautiful gate of doubt. In the spiral of life, it says that all ends are beginnings. It sounds like gate 54, the alpha and the omega. Gate 54, line 4, which gate 54, don't forget, put its essence into this head center through gate 61. It was the next gate in the wheel. The transition of 54 is of direct impact into the whole head center and the pressure to translate our existence. And here, this doubt pressure is the translational pressure to doubt the logic, to doubt the process, to doubt what you've identified with, to doubt the patterns.
Is it okay, because kind of the difference between gate 64 is it's all experiential, abstract, but then gate 63 is logical, picking out patterns, looking to the future. So that's kind of the difference between the two of them. So someone who has gate 64 might have a hard time understanding someone who has like gate 63, because gate 63 is
I bet
logical,
you
patterns, the future, like trying
to fight with each other. I mean, and they would have to learn that was their normal way. The doubter says, no, I like this thing because so the abstraction channel is always on, pressuring us. And 47, the I Ching called it oppression, the gate of oppression. Because if you can't come to the realization, it's oppressive. So you got to keep at it and at it and at it, all from the past.
Because I got 64, and then my husband has gate 63, and my husband actually has the whole channel, the 63-4. So he is very like logically minded, always trying to prevent chaos and trying to find patterns for the future, to make sure in the future something doesn't go bad or go wrong or lead to chaos.
Yeah, and you're just floating along on an abstract process that has the pressure to come to new realizations. It's even mutative at all. And so Jake is like, honey, you got a pattern. You got to stick to this. And you're like, maybe.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Actually, now that you said that, Savannah, what I'm noticing about myself that is part of what helped get me sober was through my 63, I started to recognize the patterns that were helping me make sense of the past mistakes that I made. Because it was all in a pattern. I was kept doing the same thing.
Cool. They kind of builded on each other and made this synergy, your gate 63 and 64, to get you to change and evolve.
Yes.
Cool.
So I recognize that. So now I have trained myself to look for the pattern, especially when I'm analyzing stuff that's happening in the past. Because ultimately, if it's something that didn't bring me joy or it needs to be resolved and we can evolve from it, the best way for me to get clarity on that is to find the pattern of what keeps going on.
So it's probably a benefit to have both of those gates, because it'd make you both abstract thinking and logical thinking and being able to.
And so we left the cross of the Maya, which was described by this search for all the knowledge. That is the Maya, because the Maya is everything. And 61 is searching out the mystery of all the things in the Maya. And when we leave the Maya as an incarnation cross, the pressures from the head center say, hey, we've left the everything. Now, what's it mean to our consciousness? What's it mean to our consciousness? We're genetically designed to have our consciousness be started with a pressure to translate our existence. That sounds like the pursuit of consciousness itself and new awareness. And so gate 63, this gate of after completion, gate of doubt, it's where all ends are new beginnings. The foundation of it is called composure, the quality of a personality where when achievement is accepted with equanimity, equally, and where continued development is allowed to take its natural course. Hey, no big deal. It's sort of acceptance of the achievement, but doubt whether continued development will take place. It's a natural doubt, and it's in the channel of logic. That's the name of the channel. It comes up with the formula. That's what the awareness underneath gate 4 is, the gate of formalization. So it's a doubt, and it's a design. The whole channel is a design of mental clarity mixed with moments of mental ease and mixed with moments of mental anxiety.
But also gate 63 people, if they can't figure out how, it can lead right to that. Like the pressure is overwhelming, and it can lead to mental anxiety if they aren't able to figure out
and
how.
What's the fear of gate 4 underneath gate 63?
Chaos. The fear of chaos.
The chaos that the buses won't run on time, the supermarkets won't open, the lights will stop working, my Netflix won't work, and I need to see the next show. My phone stopped giving me my contacts. Chaos was previously there.
Yeah, and my husband would have these panic attacks and anxiety when he couldn't figure out a solution to a problem. It would lead to all this anxiety. So I think it's helpful to know that if you have
wicked helpful to know that,
Yes,
because
it is.
don't forget, every time you were in aura to him, you gave him your unconscious confusion. Second line. And it's a line of projection. You projected your confusion right into him. You stuck it right in him.
So we drive each other crazy and give each other anxiety.
Yeah. Until you become aware, and then seeing it kills it. Jennifer, you are smiling like something super special. What are you thinking?
Nothing. I just love how Savannah brought that up, or you on the other side, because I can see that in me. Because on 64, I've spent so much time trying to make sense of the past that when 63, when I have that, and on the other side, I know that chaos is coming. So since I've spent so much time analyzing it through 64, sometimes the chaos can be a little bit too much overwhelming.
Right, because we don't have the full formula for it. We got to what in 61, we got to why in 64, but how is a logical process. How are we going to make it work? How's this all going to lay out? Well, how's that going to happen? How is a logical question.
Was
right?
63 in Virgo?
No, so 63 comes across the wheel. So it is in Aquarius.
Pisces.
Oh, wait a second. Where is 63? Oh, it's in Pisces.
Yep.
So as we're describing 63, this logical process, it's logical to doubt stuff. Don't forget, the foundation of this is the acceptance of the achievement of the pressure created a formula. That's an achievement. Answering how, the formula answered how, but doubt whether it will continue, because the logical process demands continued doubt. There's no such thing as set it and forget it. And how many times do we try and set it and forget it? Oh, just set the thing up. It'll work that way. It will not work that way forever. Sooner or later, gate 61 and mutation will come along, and what worked forever will no longer work the same way. We all know this. Nothing stays the same. And the pressure to pressure the logical awareness and the abstract and the unique individual knowing awareness is constantly on. If you have a defined head center, it never turns off. And you need to talk that through with us so we can tell you what that means to you. If you have an open head center, it's intermittent, and we don't know when it's going to arrive for you. And it feels like this incredible pressure of not knowing what to think about because there's too many things to think about. It's too much. So you start thinking about everything, and ultimately that means you think about things that don't matter if it's in an open head center. And that's a terrible pressure to live under when you don't know what that is.
That's between the three of us, I have it open, both head and asana, but you two guys have it both defined.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jennifer, sometimes her and I are clash of the titans on our whys, our hows, and our whats. You know what I mean? We have this incredibly consciousness bending and stretching conversations. It's amazing. And then we never hate the other for being themselves. It's perfect. And so, but how do you experience that open head center sometimes with one gate on it? One gate 64, the gate of confusion. It's unconscious, right? It's red.
I know it's conscious. No,
okay.
It's not my personality side. So that flavors how I process all information is trying to understand the why behind it, right?
Yeah.
But it's an hour and 48. Or do you guys want to finish up?
I know we're going to wrap it up. But if someone could please read the verbiage under gate 63, because I can't quite.
Yeah. 63 is after completion, the gate of doubt, pressure to prevent future chaos by finding logical patterns and solutions. Mental anxiety results when forcing solutions before they are ready.
Yeah. So it's about forcing the stuff before it's ready. It's forcing it before. If it's not ready, it's not ready.
I hate
it too, Jen. We both.
I don't like chaos, but yes. So
I hate it too.
I can see this. I can see this one playing out in my life too.
Absolutely. So there we have it. We have demonstrated how the pressure of the adrenaline center and the pressure of the pineal gland, the deep gray area of our genetic vehicles on the surface, pressures our awareness to commune with the other and find the spirit of our love moving in the right direction. That's a good pattern that we're willing to fight for. It brings the joy of the pattern, making it worth the struggle that transitions into the material way that starts to answer the question of what the hell in the first place, and goes through this entire. These two pressure centers are so connected to each other. They're so connected to each other, and they bring the cross of consciousness into existence. Our pressure drives consciousness.
Yes, it
Period.
does.
And with that, I think we've answered and talked in depth about all the gates.
Yes, we did. That was excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, Savannah, you have to bounce, right?
Yeah, I gotta get going.
Yeah,
So.
hop off. Just hop off.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thank you,
Love you,
Savannah.
Savannah. Bye.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, that wraps up our Sunday show. Thank you for everybody who tuned in. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow the show. And just like Danny said earlier, if you have these gates, if you have an open head center, if you don't know you have them or anything like that, book a call with us. You can either book a session with Dan and go ahead and get started. But if you still have questions and you just want to touch base and see if this was right for you, book a free consultation. We are offering that now. And for those of you who really want to start to learn how to integrate this knowledge and go through your experiment and need support through the deconditioning, check out our monthly program, which is the Vortex. And yeah, I can't think of anything else that.
Jennifer, we're beaming. So good. The way it wrapped up so nicely.
Yes, it did. That was a great show. So thank you everybody who tuned in and hung in there. And we will see you on Wednesday night. Not too sure who we're doing just yet, but stay tuned.
Can we do Rand Paul?
I don't know who that is.
Rand Paul's the senator who's been grilling Fauci all.
Do I know who any of these? Again, everybody who watches our shows knows my political point. Burn them all. I don't, but we can if you want to. If he's a key player, we'll go over him.
Super key player. I'll see if I can find his birth info.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Tune in later, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.
We sure will.
Bye now.